Amid all of the noise around Deion Sanders to the NFL, he might be adding an NFL legend to his coaching staff.
You are Locked On Buffs, your daily podcast on the Colorado Buffaloes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Buffs. I am your host, Kevin Borba. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. From the first whistle to the final drive, FanDuel makes the NFL playoffs even more exciting. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win your first bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. We are also brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day for free and available wherever you get your podcast. So thank you guys for making me your first listen every day. Like I said, free and available wherever you get your podcast. Make sure to like, subscribe, follow, give me 5 stars so that way you don't miss out on a second of the coverage. Let's talk about it. I think this is kind of an under the radar news story cycle because there's been so much going on with Colorado's coaching staff. Coach Flea, or Gary Harrell, as he is known, is out. He is no longer the running backs coach at Colorado. He is, for I think, an unannounced move, was not brought back. I think it was a move that had to happen, though. Realistically, Colorado's rushing attack has been putrid over the past 2 years. Now, I think there's a lot that goes into this, right? You have the offensive line not being so good. I think you have an offense coordinator in Pat Shurmur and an offense coordinator in Sean Lewis, who last year, who neither of them committed to the run. Now, people might say that's because Shador was at quarterback and Coach Prime wanted to air that thing out. Maybe, right? That's only a conversation that they have behind closed doors that they would know about. I wouldn't say they didn't commit to the run game, or they refused to commit to the run game, but they were definitely not willing to. If things were getting tough, it was like, okay, we're just going to throw the ball to Travis, right? If things were getting tough, we're throwing it to LeJohntay, we're throwing it to Jimmy. There was like never a moment where they were bought in enough to the run game where they were like, you know what? We need to get 5 yards here. We're going to run the ball. Like, Colorado was unwilling to run the ball and clearly you kind of have to deal with the repercussions of that, which is posting one of the worst, if not the worst, rushing attacks in college football. So with Coach Flea out, Coach Gary Harrell out, Colorado has brought in Tommy Robinson, who's an assistant running backs coach. And there's also a report by Brian Howell of Buff Zone that NFL legend Marshall Faulk has emerged as a top candidate to replace him. So this is what Brian had to write. Buff Zone has learned through a source that former college and NFL great Marshall Faulk is a top candidate to become the Buffs' new running back coach. Faulk would replace Gary Harrell, who is no longer with the Buffs. And so for those of you who, if you're a younger person and you may know the name Marshall Faulk, or if you don't remember what Marshall Faulk did, he's 51 years old. He was inducted into the Hall of Fame the same year as Coach Prime. NFL MVP back in the year 2000. He's in the Pro Football and College Football Hall of Fame. He was a 2-time unanimous All-American at San Diego State, number 2 overall pick in the 1994 draft, and a Super Bowl winner in 1999 with the St. Louis Rams. Him and Coach Prime worked together at the NFL Network. He was involved in that thing with that incident that Warren Sapp was, that lawsuit. Nothing came out of it, but excuse me. He was, it says, and this was what the report said, Faulk's time with the NFL Network came to an end after he and others, including Warren Sapp, were named in a lawsuit filed by a woman who worked as a wardrobe stylist and accused him of sexual misconduct. The accuser settled, and the case was dropped, but he did not return to the network. And he's been working in finance and health as of late, the men's health industry. So he hasn't coached before, and I think it's a bit of a risk to bring in someone who's never coached before, but at the same time, I think Coach Prime knows what he's doing, right? I think someone like Marshall Faulk, who's been around the NFL, at least he was up until 2017, I think was when he was no longer part of the show. He's been around football. He's a legend of the game, so he has advice to share. And I don't think you bring in running back assistants if you don't want, I think it's okay to bring in someone like Marshall Faulk, who hasn't coached, because you have assistants to him that will probably help him fill him in on the happenings or the ongoings of what the day-to-day looks like. It's like, okay, we're recruiting, so this is what we do, or this is how we coach this technique. So I think having someone that knowledgeable will only help. Warren Sapp, when he was brought on the staff, had no experience. And I think although it wasn't just him that helped the defense line improve, I think he played a big role, right? He played a big role in the offense line improving, the defense line improving, because he kind of gives that perspective. So I think Coach Prime bringing in another NFL legend certainly doesn't hurt. And it also, I think from a recruiting standpoint, I think it gives Colorado one of the most attractive running back coaches in the country, right? Because I think Colorado needs more running back talent. And the best way to get that is to have someone who's been there, done that, right? And Marshall Faulk has been there. He's done that. And you don't have to worry about him really not knowing the game or understanding it because he's done it at the highest level. And if you're Colorado, you really just need a change. It doesn't really matter. I think you get a little unorthodox here because the run game has been so bad. It's almost shocking how bad the run game has been in Colorado. They ranked 133rd in the country in rushing offense, averaging just 65.2 yards per game on 2.48 yards per carry. There was also just a lot of issues that the running backs had. Now, again, injury issues, not really his fault, but just lack of overall usefulness, lack of dynamicism in the run game. And I think there was never a clear option, right? You went from Charlie Offerdahl starting to Micah Welch to Dallin Hayden to Isaiah Gustav and just flip-flopping all around. And there was never really an answer. And so I think Coach Prime taking a risk like this will help out in recruiting. I think it helps educate the running backs even more. And maybe it lights a spark in that room, right? Maybe Colorado's run game improves a little bit, right? You have someone who knows ball as well as anyone in Coach Prime. You have a experienced coordinator in Pat Shurmur. And now you have an NFL legend who played running back, who played the position, giving these guys advice. And I think in some cases it's hard to learn from legends and others not so much. So we'll see if this comes to fruition, but I like the risk here, right? I think Coach Prime has gotten I don't think he's got enough credit for the staff that he's put together around him. I think it masks his inexperience in certain aspects of coaching at the college level. And I think it also has some calculated risks that can help the program for years to come. So we'll see if it comes to fruition. And I'm excited that Coach Prime is willing to take a risk like that. When we come back, we're going to be talking about the latest on Deion Sanders and the Dallas Cowboys. It's very good news for Colorado fans. This episode of Locked On Buffs is brought to you by Prizepicks, the place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of winnings, Prizepicks has changed the game in daily fantasy sports, whether it's the playoffs or regular season. Prizepicks has made it easier than ever to win big while enjoying all the football action. Now, it's playoff time. There's no better way to get in on the action than with Prizepicks. Here's how it works. You simply pick more or less on at least two players, and if your pick hits, you could win up to 1,000 times your cash. Yes, that's right. 1,000 times your money, just by making a few simple picks. For me, I'm all about the hot takes this season. This week on Prizepicks, I'm looking at Lamar Jackson for more than 250 yards. That would have been a good one had they won. Maybe Mark Andrews for a couple drops would have been a good one as well. But Travis Kelce, more than 70 receiving yards, is a fun one. So it's fun to predict and easy to play. Plus, with Prizepicks Flex Play, you could still double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. And with the app, you get your winnings fast, sometimes in as little as 15 minutes. Ready to run your game this football season? Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's right, just $50 just for playing. So don't wait. Take your game to the next level with Prizepicks. Prizepicks, run your game. Welcome back to Locked On Buffs. Appreciate you guys for tuning in every single day, making me your first listen of the day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure to like, subscribe, and follow so that way you don't miss out on a moment of the coverage. We have a potential really fun interview coming up. Just working out some details and some scheduling conflicts, and hopefully you guys will really like who I have planned to come on the show. We'll see if it comes to fruition. But let's talk about Coach Prime to the NFL. It's been rumored. He's been reported as the top candidate. He's been reported as a top candidate. I had a Dallas Cowboys insider come on the show just last week, and I was like, he said something along the lines of, I think a lot of people want it to happen, but we don't know if it's going to happen. So there's been a lot of mystery around Deion Sanders to the Cowboys. Well, we got a little bit of an update recently, and I think Colorado fans should be very excited about this. So according to NFL Network's Ian Rappaport, there has not been an official interview set up, and one may never take place. He said, nothing scheduled yet with Coach Prime. I would be surprised, probably very surprised if something did in fact get scheduled, but that won't stop everyone talking about it until he signs a new deal with Colorado. Obviously, Colorado just finished their second season. They went 9-4. He said one thing and this was James Slater, which I think this kind of stirred up the rumors even more. She wrote about this last week. One thing to watch following Jerry Jones' initial discussion with Deion Sanders. Two people with knowledge of the situation tells me Sanders approached Colorado AD Rick George last Tuesday, about additional money for NIL and his staff. He was met with resistance. And then she said that the program didn't confirm nor deny that. So what do we learn from this? Well, I think, and I said this all along, and people sort of lost this message in the overall reporting of the issue because they're like, why do you want Coach Prime to leave? And it's not that I want him to leave Colorado. It's the opposite. I want him to stay at Colorado. I want him to stay in college football at the very least, because he's amazing for college football. He's bringing in new attention. He's bringing in new fans in a way that we've never seen. So why would I want him to leave? The thing is, and I've talked about this before, Jerry Jones is a sociopath, respectfully. Like, I don't mean that literally. Jerry Jones is a sociopath. He is someone who would hire a coach like Deion Sanders for the sake of getting attention and hope it works out. So when he was linked to the Dallas Cowboys, I was like, oh, that's interesting. You combine that with the fact that he played there, they won a Super Bowl there. Him and Jerry have been friendly. It's one of those things where it's like, oh, this feels a little real. And so I always thought, especially when the reports were coming out that Coach Prime had an offer for a contract that he hadn't signed, and it was reportedly very, very good. I immediately said this could be a ploy by him to get more money. Now, I think people were riled up about me saying he needs to be paid even more. When you have someone as good as Deion Sanders is at, one, just attracting top talent, two, bringing in attention like the program's never seen before, you kind of have to do whatever it takes. And so I specifically had an episode that said Colorado is at risk of losing Coach Prime if they don't make him the highest paid coach. And people got on me. They're like, he hasn't done anything yet. Why would you pay him? Well, you're paying him for on the field, off the field, attention, culture. You're paying him for all of these reasons. And I think Coach Prime wants more buy-in from the school. I think although Colorado has supported him a lot, I think there's other ways they can offer more support, and that's obviously being financial, having a bigger NIL pool, having a bigger pool for your coaches so you can bring in more experienced guys or bring in some of the hot commodities at, say, offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator if you want. Like, Coach Prime is limited in Boulder, and I think what people don't realize is a lot of the success he has had is because he's using his platform, right? He's not using Colorado, right? He doesn't go on the visits. He doesn't use that money that way. He brings in all of this attention, and he's helping Colorado boost their brand, but Colorado's not necessarily helping him boost his brand, right? So Coach Prime needs assistance financially to help take this program to the next level. Because right now, to win in college football, you have to be willing to spend. Ohio State, I believe they spent $20 million on this roster. Notre Dame is going to get a nice check, and they've been offering some nice NIL deals, right? You don't get a guy like Riley Leonard without some nice financial compensation. So Colorado needs a little bit more financial support. I think Deion Sanders was using the Cowboys job as leverage because, in a way, everyone thought it was like, it feels real because Jerry Jones might do it. But at the same time, he wouldn't get to coach his son and all that. But at the same time, I think him sort of holding this over Colorado shows to Rick George that, like, hey, I will leave if I'm not getting the support I need, right? I am getting interest in other jobs. I am taking calls, right? He sent out feelers for the Raiders job because he wanted to coach his sons. So I think if you're Rick George, just as a wake-up call to be like, okay, maybe we do need to do things a little differently. Maybe we do need to figure out how to fork over some more money for his staff. But it's one of those things where sometimes you have to learn the hard way, and luckily for Colorado, I think they should be all right. I don't think he's going to leave, but you don't want to have to experience Coach Prime leaving, right? If Coach Prime leaves this program, it's going to be tough to recover. I don't feel like people really comprehend that enough. It's one of those things where if Coach Prime leaves Colorado, this program will plummet into the depths of college football. So if you're Rick George, you kind of go, okay, I see what you're saying, and I'm going to do the best I can, right? You cannot, if Deion Sanders leaves Colorado and you put the best offer imaginable on the table, you're giving him an unlimited money pool for NIL, unlimited money pool for staff, and he leaves because he wants to, that's a different thing. But if Deion Sanders leaves and later comes out that, hey, we just didn't think it was worth it to invest all this money, then egg on your face, that's an embarrassment, because there should be no reason that Deion Sanders leaves without the best offer imaginable, right? Because he's making it back. Like it makes too much sense to pay him whatever he wants. So I think it'll be interesting to see how this develops. Obviously, another job was filled today, Ben Johnson to the Bears. So the Cowboys he's technically still probably in the mix, but obviously Ian Rappaport said there's been no developments past a phone call or discussion or whatever. So if you're Colorado, you have to love that. But if you're the Colorado administration, you really need to make the right move. When we come back, we're going to be talking about the prime effect, which really ties into what I just talked about. This episode of Locked On Buffs is brought to you by FanDuel. From the first whistle to the final drive, FanDuel makes the NFL playoffs even more exciting. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win your first bet. That's $300 in bonus bets to keep $300 to keep the action going. The FanDuel app is easy to navigate, and the variety of bets keeps every game exciting. Plus, when you win, you get paid instantly. No waiting around for your winnings, whether you're betting on your favorite team or just looking to add some extra excitement to the playoffs. FanDuel has you covered. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today and to get started with $300 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Welcome back to Locked On Buffs. Appreciate you guys tuning in every single day, making me your first listen of the day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast. Make sure to like, subscribe, follow, become an everydayer if you don't know what that is. Those are my folks. Tune in every single day. They deal with this mug. They deal with this voice. And we talk all things Colorado football. We have some fun. So if you want to have fun or you know someone who wants to have fun with us, share this, subscribe, and make sure that you are staying in tune with all of the latest on the bus. Let's talk about the Coach Prime effect. We knew Coach Prime generates a ton of interest, but now I'm going to quantify that. So a report by the USA Today revealed just how important, just how big he's been for Colorado. And it says Colorado released a report this for the fiscal 2024 year, which is July 1st, 2023 to June 30th, 2024. And so the Coach Prime effect led to $146 million in reported revenue and a record $31.2 million in football ticket sales, which is double the previous school record. And it goes on. The athletic department revenue still includes a school record $31.9 million allocated funds from the university. And it's just one of those things where Coach Prime bringing in the big bucks. And obviously, this kind of ties back into what I was saying. If you are a school like Colorado, who historically is not Alabama, Ohio State, Texas, Georgia, Clemson, whatever it is, with all these big donors who are just throwing money at the program, and it's like he's bringing in this money. Figure out a way to support him, right? Coach Prime, the Prime effect is as real as ever. And I think it's also worth noting he's brought in 3 of the top 6 highest recruits in program history, right? The Colorado is one of the most viewed teams in the country. Their bowl game against BYU was the most viewed non-playoff bowl game. So Coach Prime is literally changing the trajectory of your program, your school, and the lives of so many. And Colorado somehow hasn't figured out a way to compensate him fairly. So I really am interested to see how this boils down. I think I'm not shocked that Coach Prime is bringing in all this money because he's the biggest story in college football. Like, I think the one thing that Coach Prime does that has set himself apart, and I've been thinking about this a lot lately, because there's Eddie George. He's out there coaching. He was an NFL great. Sean Jackson just got hired out at Delaware State. He was an NFL star. Who else? I feel like I'm missing someone, but Michael Vick at Norfolk State, recently hired. He was an NFL legend, right? Legend of the game. None of these guys are drawing the attention that Coach Prime draws because, 1, he was a legend. 2, he was very vocal. 3, he's been on TV a lot and he has a great personality. And none of these guys have all of that. And Colorado has a rarity here. And he's boosting your program. He's boosting your economy. He's doing it all. So if I'm Colorado, like I said, and I'll sound like a broken record all I want, do what you got to do. Keep Prime in Boulder so that way you don't have to go back to like an experience like the Carl Durrell experience or even the Mel Tucker experience, whatever that was, where you're struggling to be relevant, you're struggling to win games. Because with Coach Prime, that won't happen, right? He's going to put the right people around him. He's going to attract top talent, and everyone's going to care what he does. So if you're Colorado, you need to make something happen. Otherwise, you'll be on the wrong side of history, and no one wants that. This has been another episode of Locked On Buffs. I appreciate you guys for tuning in every single day, making me your first listen of the day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure to like, subscribe, and follow. I will see you guys tomorrow, and happy MLK Day to everyone, and to all a good night.